Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm David again with Ag Economic Insights. Doing a question of the week video this week. Uh, a familiar topic, a new wrinkle, and a challenging question. That's the theme that we have for this week. And of course, we're talking about inflation. Um, if you've been watching this, Jay Powell had some comments out after their March meeting where they seemed so optimistic about lower rate cuts and even slowing the rate they were shrinking that balance sheet. They were able to take out some of that braking they had going on in the economy. And he's saying, the recent inflation data have clearly not given us greater confidence and instead indicate that there's likely going to take longer than expected to achieve uh, the confidence of getting the inflation back to 2%. Is what he's talking about. It's not just Jay Powell, Larry Summers, Larry Summers, who is an economist and former Treasury Secretary, recently said that he thinks uh, people should think critically about the probability of the Fed's next hike or next change being an increase in interest rates, not a decrease. He's talking about the probabilities and how that might play out. So let's talk about the latest data that we have out here. Here is year over year changes on a monthly level. Going back to 2010, as you can see, inflation here in the early parts of 2024 are certainly improved from where we've had the last few years, but nowhere near that Fed's 2% target. We're still a long ways away from that, especially if we think about getting to 2% and sustaining that 2%, that confidence that we're getting to 2%. We also took a look at this actual individual level data, but I think the real challenge here is looking at this month over month change in the PCE. This is what's causing a lot of head scratching as we see this spike up higher. Again, month over month changes are higher than they were in the last 4 months of 2023, but not nearly as high as they were during the heat of it all back in 2021 and 2022. But it still points to this situation that if these monthly changes are sustained, this monthly acceleration is sustained, we could see this data start to creep back up higher. So with this in mind, we have two new Ag Forecast Network questions. What do you think the probability of the inflation measure in the economy using the PCE for 2024 is less than 2.5%? I have a 30% forecast, but of course, this is a long burn question, so we have almost 8 months to update our expectations and to follow along. And the other question is probability of it being above 3.5%. I think that's a little bit more likely, but it would take some really big numbers to pull that off, and I need to update my thinking along the way. And that's really the goal to all of this is updating our thinking as new information comes along. One of the reasons why we picked these two thresholds is because we start coming in below 2.5%, the Fed's going to have the cover to really drop interest rates and take some of the breaking off the economy. On the other hand, if we see these numbers continue to trend higher on a month over month basis, and we see the annual metrics start to get above 3, and in this case 3.5% for this threshold of question, the Fed's going to have to really step on the brakes here. So this is a big uncertainty, has a lot of implications for where interest rates are going to go here in 2024. And of course, the important thing is to stay current on the data and be update our thinking as new information becomes available, because it's really easy and tempting to get locked on to a particular opinion and not update. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned the most. I get asked a lot, what have you learned the most about your decision making as you've used the forecast network for several years now? And I always say I have a really good initial forecast, have a pretty good final forecast. I just don't update my thinking enough between those data points. So this is a good time for us to practice this updating our thinking. And these, of course, we're going to have monthly updates with all these inflation estimates, and we're going to have these quarterly conversations coming out of the Fed. That's all I have for this month. Until next time, stay curious.